Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. Today we're discussing a friendly watch at a friendly price with real horological value and impeccable pedigree. We're talking about the Seiko SBGE005 Spring Drive GMT. You can see and you can purchase this Spring Drive 3-day power reserve automatic dual time on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right hand corner of the screen at any time during this video to see our full sales listing for this 41mm steel timepiece with additional accessories included in the sale, high resolution images for your desktop, and naturally complete pricing details for this SBGE005. Now, Seiko is highly regarded by collectors for good reason. The watches are beautifully crafted and thoughtfully designed. They offer tremendous value in that the engineering and horological fascination is immense, but they don't disappoint in the artistic details or design. Virtuosity in both respects at a price substantially below $5,000 pre-owned means that this watch is an excellent candidate to round out your collection if you're looking for a Seiko, if you're looking for an extended power reserve or a dual time, or if you're a Seiko collector. This could be your GMT watch for travel, or simply for those keeping track of friends and family in far-off and far-flung locales. So the watch on my wrist is 41mm across the round of the case, 9:3, not inclusive of the crown. It's a bit of a chunky profile, but it's manageable. At 14.1mm thick, it'll slide underneath a sport jacket or a blazer cuff, if not the absolute tightest of dress cuffs. Now, there are two ways of measuring this watch. You can see the lugs are perforated deliberately to allow you to use a pin tool to remove the bracelet and swap out to a strap if you prefer. So I'm going to give you the measurement as it would be lug-to-lug on a strap, and then the measurement with the solid end links of the bracelet included. So lug-to-lug on a strap, with the lugs representing the outer extremity, the watch would be 48.6mm across the wrist. Now, measuring solid end link to solid end link, you have a span of 51.7mm across the wrist. Both very wearable. On a strap, this watch could be accommodated on a wrist, in my estimation, as small as 13.5 centimeters in circumference, and on the bracelet, I believe 14 centimeters in circumference would be the comfortable lower limit. The watch has a handsome Zaratsu finish on its flanks, optically smooth. I should remove my smudges of fingerprints. This is executed against specialized milling surfaces, guided by the hand of the artisan to create that level of distortion-free polish. Now, the case itself features a arced, almost cambered profile, so it drapes itself across the wrist. This is why the watch, in spite of being fairly broad, when you include the solid end links, nevertheless can drape itself comfortably around a smaller wrist because it contours to the curve of the wrist. Now, the bracelet is beautifully made. You can see alternating satin and polished facets with a hairline bevel that runs the shoulder of the outer links that I absolutely adore, because this is the kind of feature you expect to get on the likes of Vacheron, Patek Philippe, and Audemars Piguet. You don't expect it on a watch in this price range, and yet there it is. Now, underneath you can see broad channels to allow the wrist to aerate on a hot day. So outstanding for active lifestyles. It also features broad channels. You can see the links are rounded where they join each other on the underside to avoid pinching skin or pulling hair. No pins and sleeves here. Despite the friendly pricing, you get screws to adjust the individual removable links. And you'll note Seiko gives you a robust milled out single fold deployant with twin trigger release for security so it can't accidentally pop open. And not all of us are divers, so Rolex Oyster-style clasps, in many cases, are just a little bit too obtrusive and bulky for those of us who don't use our sports watches for taking the plunge, or at least not in a professional capacity. Here we have 100-meter water resistance and a buckle that is low in profile and best suited to avoiding scratches and scrapes while desk diving, moving one's wrist over a work surface. Now, of course, we feature handsome case lines, facets, polishes, and on the lug hoods, satin finish for contrast. A sharp and strong conical bezel with a masculine joinery with the case band. You can see that is a strong character line that runs the sweep of the case profile. Turning it over, you can see the dial is deep and rich. A Ray-Hawt 24-hour style running down from the bezel to the dial base acts as the scale for reading the blue 24-hour GMT hand. You can see the hands have satin finished tops and polished bevels. Grand Seiko hands are among the highlights of the brand's strengths. So the company does almost everything well, but they do hands uniquely well. Hands on watches at this price point aren't supposed to be this richly finished, detailed, nuanced, and three-dimensional in their appearance, and yet these are all of those. The GMT hand is heat blued to oxidize it, not chemically dyed, and then you'll note the same level of attention to detail, faceting, polish, and strong creases between vertical and horizontal planes is evident in the individual indices hand laid on the dial. The dial also features a rich champagne coloration. It is a metallic that is almost, I would call it chameleon-like, because it seems to shift between a off-white eggshell, silver, white, gray, and in some lights it even has that little yellowish pink tinge that you associate with champagne itself. The date is placed in a handsome aperture that's as nicely finished as the indices themselves, and there's a small and discreet but practical power reserve scale between 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock, useful because though an automatic winding watch, once you've set your date and your 2 time zones, you like to know if your watch is in danger of running out of wind. Now the watch features a screw-down crown as part of its 100-meter water resistance. In an intermediate setting position, you can set the local time separately from the 24-hour time and the minutes. You'll also note how you can drive the date forward or backwards as you jump time zones. Of course, the nice thing about this feature is that not only will it drive the date both ways as you cross the international date line, but note how it doesn't actually stop the movement. The watch continues keeping good time to the second even as you make your adjustments. Of course, when you pull the crown out all the way, you do hack the balance, stop the seconds hand, and the balance is really a governing wheel that you'll see in a moment. The watch doesn't have a conventional escapement, nor does it have a conventional seconds hand. Look carefully, there are no small staggered steps to that hand. It is a completely smooth sweep because the spring drive movement, though driven entirely by a mechanical mechanism and spring energy, automatically or manually wound, it moves in only one direction, its train right up to the point of the governing wheel, turning in a single direction under the impetus of the spring's unfurling energy. And you can see that though it is a watchmaker assembled and tuned caliber, it incorporates a good deal of out-of-the-box thinking. Now, this is a system that effectively took from 1977 to 1999 to realize, and another half-decade or so to realize with automatic winding. The wheel that you see just underneath my finger is the governing wheel. It's propelled by the spring. As it turns, it creates an induced electrical current that activates a quartz oscillator, ensuring this watch is accurate to plus or minus 15 seconds per month. Remember, a COSC chronometer is accurate to +6, -4 seconds per day. So that's the level of accuracy you're talking about here. Now the wheel will speed up if the movement slows down. The back EMF, or the induced resistance, the electromagnetic resistance, acts as a governor to regulate the watch, speeding or slowing the wheel to keep the time. 30 joules, watchmaker assembled, and a true mechanical movement that creates its own electrical energy from spring energy. It gives you the romance of a mechanical movement, the convenience of an automatic, the practicality of a dual time, the ruggedness of a sports watch. All of this with the charm of a mechanical timepiece. That's Grand Seiko and Seiko Spring Drive. You'll see it on everything from Seiko timepieces that you can buy for a few $100s to Grand Seiko's own Crador Spring Drive Grand Sonnery. If that's impressive, well, it should be. Technically, it's something that Switzerland's barely managed to grapple with, and quite frankly, in the decades since Seiko began operating the Spring Drive program, there really hasn't been any sustained ability by any other brand or even watchmaking nation to match it. All of that in a watch under $5,000? Yes, please. See it and own it on our website.